Hello everyone, welcome back to the Northeast Photographic YouTube channel. If you checked out the previous couple videos that I did, you'll know that I'm working my way through this kind of a deep dive on this interesting film that I sell actually, so you can buy it in our store. But it's made by Adox. It is CMS20II Pro. So it's a 20 ISO, ultra high resolution film. It's not quite like other slow speed films. It's not just sharp because of its slow properties, but it's sharp because of its nature of being kind of this document film. And as you have seen probably in my previous video, you'll notice that it requires a special developer to give it a normal photographic tone, and it requires just very special handling in general, and even special exposure when you're working with this. Now, as you noticed from the last two videos, I was very happy with the way it scanned. The images were grainless and quite beautiful. So I'm was really excited to take this into the darkroom. So I'm changing up a little bit how I'm doing this video. Instead of kind of talking to the camera and doing it how I was doing it before, I thought I would try this voiceover method as I just sort of show you what I did to make my test images. So here you can kind of see me in the darkroom, and I'm using my LPL 4550 XL 4x5 and larger with a Heiland Splitgrade system. The Heiland system made it incredibly easy to get my exposure. I'm making test strips here, and you can see that I'm doing it a slightly different way than most people would, or even mostly I would. Instead of using trays to develop this paper, I've decided to use my Jobo. I just found that it makes my life pretty easy when I'm just kind of working in a volume way. I can quickly and easily walk away from the Jobo and develops the paper for me, and it does a great job. So I don't think I'm going to do this all the time. But for the purposes of this video and for certain special projects, it's cool to know that I can develop black and white paper in the Jobo. I was using Morse Eco 4812, which is a great paper developer. It lasts a really long time in working and in stock solution. I highly recommend it to everybody. It's also non-toxic and very eco-friendly. It's actually a little hard to get in the States. It's currently out of stock everywhere, and I ran out. So I can't wait for it to come back into stock, because I will definitely buy more. So when you make prints with the Jobo, you start with these test strip drums, and you cut your paper into 4x5 sections. This is a great way of working, actually. I used to work in with these really thin strips, but these 4x5 sections, they tell you a lot. This is Ilford multigrade satin in the RC finish. I really like this paper. It does suffer a little bit with the DMAX, but the detail is really well held because of its smooth finish, and it's a great paper when you're going to be handing out prints for people to handle. Maybe not the best choice for behind glass, but it is a wonderful paper. So what I've decided to do is increase the contrast grade a little bit to make up for the slightly soft look of my test strip. And yeah, the great thing about the Heiland Splitgrade system is you can mostly trust it. The computer automatically compensated for my change in grade, so I'm just going straight to my 16x20 print. It automatically does the split grade exposure from the soft range to the hard light, and then I basically take my print and I load it into this large Jobo drum, put it on the machine, and hit go. And it takes about 6 minutes total, but it does a pretty much perfect job, assuming your drums are bone dry. So I won't do this all the time. This is kind of why I don't develop everything with the Jobo, because in some ways it can be annoying, but for tests like these, it's perfect. Now, if you had a keen eye in the beginning of this video, you may notice that we got a 3D printer at the lab. And one thing I like to do when I'm developing prints with the Jobo is walk around and do something else, because I have ADHD. Anyway, my 300mm 6.3 Tessar was making contact with the lens board, and it made it difficult to change the aperture, so it needed a spacer ring. So I just made a simple 3D printed model, and it attached very easily behind my shutter, and I was able to reassemble the lens in the lens board and get this lens back in my regular circulation now. I find that 3D printing is a really good option if you're kind of an artist that works with machines, like machine processors or cameras. You always need these little tiny little bits that are so simple, and you try to source them from companies that may not be making these things before. And the technology with 3D printing has gotten so easy to use. It's really incredible. I can't wait to do more with that printer. If you want to know, we got a Bamboo X1 carbon printer, and we've been very happy with it. Anyway, let's get back to our printmaking process. So you just open up the drum, and then you kind of carefully remove the paper, and I do mean carefully. You can easily kind of damage the edges of the print here. Examining it wet, the exposure looks good. Contrast is a little bit better. I really see no issues that I want to correct for. If I was going into a fine printing stage, I may do work with dodging and burning and vignetting somewhat, but for the purposes of this video, it's not particularly necessary. Earlier this year, we got a RC2100 RK print dryer, which has been an incredible way to speed up production as well in printing, because it will dry my print fully in about 2 minutes. Coming from someone that used to have to dry everything they did overnight, or used to work with blotter books, this is pretty incredible. I have to thank Cat Labs in Boston for hooking me up with this print dryer. We now have just an awesome darkroom at the lab, and I am having a lot of fun getting back to my roots and making prints in the real way. You can see the print coming out dry. The dry down of this paper is definitely present, so it's something you want to compensate for. But getting back to the film itself, look at the detail on this rope and on the dock and on these little areas. I mean, this is the kind of detail that you usually only see in much larger formats. Even working with films like Delta 100, it does not get this clear. And I'll show you that comparison in a second. So wrapping it up, CMS20II Pro is just a film that makes other films look worse by comparison. You're going to want to be asking yourself, if you're shooting 35mm in a landscape setting, why am I not using this film? What could I get if I was shooting this film? I'm going to wrap up with more thoughts on that, but take a look at this overlay of CHS100. Look at how the detail just becomes so muddled in comparison. And CHS100 is a really sharp film. It's a stark comparison. I mean, they're just not the same. Quickly, final thoughts on this film. It integrates into my workflow perfectly. But what do I mean by that? I'm the kind of person that has a darkroom. I have very high resolution scanners. I have the ability to make prints in my darkroom. I develop my own film. And I like using weird stocks that are very slow. So that's a lot of caveats. What about you? Are you the kind of person that sends me film and I process it with my Jobo, and then I run it through my Noritsu or my Fuji Frontier? I have to be honest, I can't say that this will be markedly different from Delta 100 or T-Max 100 in terms of its grain properties. And in fact, those films will probably have smoother tonality. So for the kind of person that is lab dependent, I just cannot fully endorse this film. But we're selling it, and we're selling it in kits. I think that kits make sense because they're for people that are going to develop their own film. We're not selling individual rolls that we expect for you to send back to us. We're selling it in kits of 5 rolls of film matched to 1 bottle. That bottle will develop all 5 rolls. So for the home user that has a very specific project, this film makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about making sense of this film, though. So they sell it in 35mm and 4x5. In 35mm, we kind of already went over the use cases. You have some really sharp lenses, and you don't want to use a larger camera. And there's lots of good reasons to not want to do that. Also, you can completely circumvent ND filters, which is pretty cool. What about 4x5? It's like what I was saying about running the film through the Noritsu. You're making not that big of enlargements with 4x5 generally. You know, if your 16x20 is not that much of a stressor for most standard 4x5 films, I don't really see a use case for a film like this that is already kind of grainless. T-Max 100 is already grainless and much easier to work with. So that's kind of a challenge. I guess I really wish that this film was available in 120. I think it would sing in that format. I think if you had a Mamiya 7 or a Pentax 6.7 or, I don't know, a Hasselblad H1 with those incredible lenses, you could almost completely replace the need for large format, because you just, it would just be stunning. I mean, 120, as we saw with Gold 200 last year when that came out, it solves a lot of the problems of certain emulsions, and it kind of makes even cheap films look better. So for a film like this, I think it would truly sing. Now, Adox is working on getting 120 films available. They have the machines, they're just not working. It's an ongoing project for them, and I hope to see them get those up and running because I love Adox films. I think their 100-speed film is great to work with, and I shoot a lot of it in 35. So as a person with a Rolleiflex, I want to see those in 120. For you, I hope this was educational in terms of what this film is. You may have seen it at Freestyle or B&H and been like, what's up with this weird film? Well, now you kind of know. Just to give you an illustration, I have my print here that I was making, and a 16 by 20 print is quite a big enlargement for a tiny 35mm frame, and it is astounding that I can look at this and see nothing but detail, even in this rope on the ground. I mean, you can almost just want to kind of dive into it and see the tiny fibers. It's pretty cool. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to keep using it, and I'll share what I do with it. And if you want to ask questions about it or order some, reach out. We have it, and I hope to import more of it from Germany. Going forward, we have a lot more fun videos coming. It's mostly a question of finding time to do them because we are a full-service lab. But the next video is going to be about 510 Pyro. Then we're going to be converting our Epson printer into a full piezography monochrome carbon ink set, which should be really cool. And then we're going to be installing and fixing our 20-inch RA4 paper processor, so we're going to be able to do traditional color printing. So that's all stuff I'm really looking forward to. So I'm trying to get better at the vlogging thing. I'm trying to get a little bit trying to be less of a windbag, I would say. I feel like I'm just talking a lot, but bear with me on that stuff. In the meantime, if you want to be a Northeast Photographic customer, that would be amazing. Please subscribe to this channel, maybe follow us on Instagram at Northeast Photographic. But generally, if you're just a film shooter, send us some rolls. We have a great rewards program where we give back to our customers. I think our prices are pretty competitive in this marketplace, and we offer a lot of stuff that other labs are not doing. Like we're doing all in-house E6. We do a lot of large format. We have some really attractive large format develop and scan services. And as I described, we have some cool print technologies coming your way as well. So thanks for joining me here, and we'll see you again soon.